What's the most unhinged thing your neighbor has ever done? Well, here's an interesting story about my neighbors who won't leave my property. The rusted fifth-wheel trailer rolled up the quiet neighborhood street like an omen. I watched from the front window, coffee cup in hand, as the beat-up black Ram truck growled and spat smoke, dragging the trailer behind it like a wounded animal. It was the 1st of May. At the time, I didn't think much of it. My old neighbors, Joey and Miranda, were always doing something chaotic. They'd been in and out of that house next door for the better part of 3 years. Everyone in town knew they were meth heads. It wasn't exactly a secret. Their house was a wreck. Their yard was a jungle. And the screaming matches at 3 a.m. were so regular they might as well have been on a schedule. But the day they parked that trailer, that was when things really began. The worst part? They didn't park it in their own yard. They parked it in mine. At first, I thought it was just temporary. Maybe Joey needed to adjust the trailer or clean something. I stepped outside that afternoon and gave him a friendly wave, more out of habit than anything. "Hey, Joey, what's up with the camper?" He didn't look up, just grunted and kicked one of the trailer's tires. Miranda popped her head out of the trailer door a moment later, her skin pale and eyes twitching with that familiar paranoia. She offered a wide, toothless grin. "Just setting up for a couple days, that cool?" I hesitated. "I mean, it's my yard." Joey finally spoke. "Ain't gonna hurt nothing. Truck's acting up. We'll be gone soon." I wanted to press the issue, but there was something in his tone, like an undercurrent of threat hidden beneath fake friendliness, that made me think twice. I figured I'd give them 48 hours. That was my first mistake. 2 days passed, then 3, then 5. By the end of the first week, the trailer had become a full-on squat. Dirty laundry hung from a makeshift clothesline tied to the trees. There were beer cans scattered in my garden. Joey had set up a broken lawn chair right next to the sidewalk and sat out there most days shirtless, drinking and blasting a Bluetooth speaker that only worked half the time. I was constantly hearing snippets of angry rap music, country twang, and incoherent ranting from Miranda. I tried to be civil. Honestly, I did. I went out there on the 6th day, took a deep breath, and approached the trailer. "Joey, look," I started. "I need you to move this thing. It's on my property, and I never gave permission." He didn't even look at me. I repeated more firmly, "You need to move it. Today." He finally turned, slow and exaggerated, like some scene out of a Western. "Truck ain't working," he said flatly. "You got to hear from Ohio." That was before it broke down. And now it magically doesn't work? Miranda stepped out of the trailer again, arms crossed. "Don't talk to him like that. Then both of you move the damn trailer. It's not staying here." "I mean it." "You gonna call the cops?" Joey sneered. I squared up. "If I have to." The grin that stretched across his face was something between smug and deranged. "Go ahead." So I did. I called the police the next morning. To say they were less than helpful would be an understatement. 2 officers showed up and took their sweet time walking around the property. Joey played it cool, offered them a Coke, told them he was just waiting on parts for the truck. They seemed reluctant to do anything. "It's a civil issue," the officer explained, scratching his chin. "Technically, since your landlord hasn't formally objected and they've been here for over a week, it's murky territory." I stared at him in disbelief. "So you're telling me I might have to evict these people?" "If it comes to that, you'll have to talk to your landlord first." I could have screamed. Instead, I called my grandma. Grandma owns the house I live in. She inherited it from my grandfather and has always rented it to family, usually at a lower rate. She's kind, generous, but also conflict avoidant to a fault. When I explained what was happening, she was quiet for a moment, then sighed. "Can't they just stay until the 1st? "Grandma," I said, trying to keep my voice even, "they are literal meth heads squatting in your yard. They've trashed the property, they scream at each other at night, and they're making the place look like a crime scene. I just don't want to cause any drama. It's only for a few more weeks, right?" "No. If they hit 30 days, it might turn into a tenant situation. That means legal eviction." I looked it up. She hesitated. "Let me think about it." That was the last I heard from her for days. Meanwhile, Joey and Miranda acted like they owned the place. I started finding cigarette butts near the porch. My dog wouldn't stop barking. A bird feeder I'd set up mysteriously vanished. I couldn't prove anything, but I knew. And then came the messages. Joey messaged my grandma directly, painting himself as the victim. He told her I was manipulative, that I was harassing him, said I was some kind of controlling monster who wanted everything my way. I told my best friend Kyle over the phone. I swear the ball's on this guy. What did she say? Kyle asked. She believed him. Or at least, she didn't want to get involved. She basically told me to drop it and wait till June. You got to do something before the 30-day mark, man. That's a legal deadline. Once they pass it, you're screwed. I know, so I took matters into my own hands. I drove straight to town hall the next morning, explained everything to the lady at the desk. She handed me a clipboard and told me to fill out a property violation report. That's when she said the magic words. You know, it's actually a city ordinance violation to park a camper in a yard, right? My eyebrows shot up, even if they're just staying in it. Especially then, she confirmed. We have codes against that. Sanitation issues. Safety problems. They're not allowed to reside in a camper on a residential lawn. Even better, it's not their lawn. She wrote down the ordinance number and told me that code enforcement could be dispatched within 72 hours. I left town hall with a copy of the complaint in hand and a flicker of hope for the first time in weeks. When I got home from City Hall, I taped the ordinance notice right onto the trailer door, along with a formal notice to vacate that I typed up myself. I used the most official-sounding language I could muster. This property is not zoned for camper occupancy. You are in violation of City Ordinance 12-3B and trespassing on private land. You are hereby given 48 hours to remove all belongings and vacate the premises, or further legal action will be pursued. I included the date, time, and my signature. I took a photo for proof. That evening, the screaming started. Joey stomped across my yard like a storm in human form, ripped the notice off the trailer door, and pounded on my front door. I didn't answer. Open the door, you little snake, he bellowed. From the window, I watched him pace back and forth like a rabid animal, gripping the paper and shouting. Miranda was sitting on the camper's steps with her face in her hands, muttering to herself. Eventually, they retreated, but the next morning, they retaliated. It was duct taped to my mailbox. A dead squirrel, bloated and stiff, a cigarette stuck between its lips like a mock offering. My stomach turned. The smell hit before I even stepped off the porch. This wasn't a coincidence. It was a message. I called the police again and showed them the picture. The officer grimaced, but said unless I had video evidence or caught them in the act, there wasn't much they could do. I could tell he was just as frustrated with the loopholes as I was. I filed a code violation complaint, I told him. Shouldn't they be forced to move soon? He nodded. If code enforcement issues a citation and they still refuse to move, it can escalate. Could be towed. Could get ugly. I glanced toward the camper. It already was. By the second week, it felt like I was living in a trailer park version of The Purge. They were tossing bags of trash into the bushes between our properties. Half-eaten food, diapers, used napkins. I caught Joey urinating on the tree line one afternoon like he was marking territory. And every night, they turned the trailer into a war zone, slamming cabinets, shouting matches, and thumping sounds that shook the windows. One night, I woke up to the sound of shattering glass. I ran outside in my pajamas with a flashlight and found my car windshield smashed. Baseball bat, sitting right beside it on the ground. I knew it was Joey, but no one saw it happen, and that made it just another civil dispute. That night, I didn't sleep. I stayed up watching the front lawn from my living room, a baseball bat of my own resting in my lap. The turning point came when my grandma showed up unannounced one morning, flanked by two of her church friends. She looked shocked at the state of the yard, the trash, the camper, the broken feeder, the dead lawn. I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. She walked straight over to the trailer, knocked hard, and waited. Joey stepped out, shirtless and stinking of booze. "What? You need to move this thing," she said calmly but firmly. He tried the sob story again, said I was abusing him, that I bullied him into a corner. But this time, Grandma didn't buy it. "I've made a mistake allowing this," she said. "I own this land, and I do not give you permission to park here. You have until Saturday to be gone." He started shouting. Miranda joined in. It got heated, but Grandma stood her ground. I'd never been prouder, and I think Joey realized, finally, that the tide had turned. Friday night. I'll never forget it. The whole neighborhood woke up to the smell of smoke. I bolted out the front door barefoot, heart pounding, and saw flames licking the edges of the camper's underbelly. Not a full blaze, but definitely a fire. Something had been set intentionally underneath, and the smoke was pouring into the sky like a signal flare. I called 911. The fire department showed up fast and doused it before it could spread. They asked a lot of questions. Joey claimed he knocked over a candle. Miranda was hysterical, or high, or both. Police took statements, but again, no arrests. They didn't find any gas cans or accelerants, just a scorched mattress and some melted plastic bins. But I knew it was a stunt, a scare tactic, maybe even insurance fraud. I didn't care. At this point, I was done being afraid. Saturday came, the deadline, and shockingly, they were still there. No movement, no packing, just Joey sitting in his folding chair like a king on his plastic throne, sipping from a warm beer and glaring at me like he was daring me to do something. So I did. I walked right into the police station and filed a formal trespassing complaint backed by the city ordinance violation, the fire report, photos of property damage, Grandma's written statement revoking permission. By 4 p.m., 2 officers and a code enforcement officer were at my property with a tow company on standby. Joey exploded. "You touch my F*****ing trailer, I swear. You're not allowed to be here," one of the cops said calmly. "This is over." They gave him 20 minutes to collect his things. He argued, yelled, cursed me up and down. Miranda sobbed and accused me of ruining their lives. But when the truck pulled in to hitch up the camper, reality hit. They were out of options. They packed fast, ugly, and loud. And by 6 p.m., the trailer was gone. The yard looked like a war zone. Brown, dead grass in a rectangular patch. Trash everywhere. Cigarette burns on the porch. One of my trees had been slashed with a knife. I found old syringes buried near the bushes the next day while cleaning. But it was quiet. For the first time in nearly a month, it was quiet. My neighbors came out and helped me clean. They'd been watching the whole thing from behind closed doors, and now that it was over, they opened up. Turns out, I wasn't the only one who had felt threatened. Joey had wandered into someone's backyard one night. Miranda had tried to steal from another neighbor's porch. They were bad news, and everyone knew it. But no one wanted to be the first to act. I guess I had become the unwilling hero of our street. Even though the camper was gone, the damage lingered, physically, mentally, and socially. For starters, Joey and Miranda didn't just vanish into the night. The day after they were forced out, Joey took to Facebook, posting a long, rambling screed on the local community group. "We were harassed and bullied out of town by a young punk who thinks he owns the place. The cops were complicit, and my pregnant girlfriend was treated like a criminal for trying to survive. Hope y'all are happy." Pregnant? That part spread like wildfire. Suddenly, the story was no longer meth heads parked illegally. Now it was poor couple just trying to make it who got booted by a heartless kid. People started messaging me. Strangers. People I'd never met. Accusing me of cruelty, threatening to expose me. Some even offered to start a GoFundMe for Joey and Miranda. It was surreal. It wasn't the truth, of course. But the truth didn't matter to people who wanted to believe the lie. A week later, I found a handwritten letter in my mailbox with no return address. It was from Miranda. The letter was written in big, loopy handwriting, with misspelled words and barely punctuated sentences. She said she forgave me, that she understood I was just scared, and that Joey was trying to change. But then the tone shifted. "I dreamed you were on fire and nobody put you out. You just burned and screamed and no one heard it." I watched. I froze reading that. It wasn't a letter of peace. It was a warning disguised as forgiveness. I handed it over to the police, who filed it as non-actionable unless further harassment occurred. Still, they said they'd log it in case there was a pattern. A pattern. That word stayed in my head like a bad song. Meanwhile, my grandma decided to take things into her own hands. She filed a civil claim against Joey for property damage. The busted tree, the dead lawn, the stolen feeder. She even got a quote from a landscaping company to resod the damaged area, and she wasn't bluffing. At first, I didn't think anything would come of it. But then Joey showed up for the court hearing alone. Miranda was gone. No explanation. He looked terrible, sunken eyes, unshaven, wearing a coat in 85-degree weather. The judge didn't buy a second of his victim act. With Grandma's pictures, the city's violation record, and my testimony, judgment was awarded in full. He owed $2,300. He laughed as he walked out of the courthouse. "You'll never see a damn dime," he said, "but I hope you sleep real good knowing you crushed 2 people." And then he was gone. Weeks passed. Life started returning to normal. Grass grew back. Neighbors waved again. The front porch felt safe. Then, one afternoon, I got a call from the county sheriff's office. They wanted to know if I knew Miranda's full name. Turns out, she'd been picked up in another state, shoplifting, resisting arrest, and possession of a controlled substance. She told police she had fled an abusive boyfriend named Joey, and that she had nowhere else to go. She was being held on bail, and her court-appointed lawyer was trying to contact people from her past to verify her claims. I told the officer everything. Every lie, every needle, every threat. The officer thanked me and said I might be called as a witness if she took a plea deal or went to trial. That was the last I ever heard of Miranda. It happened 2 months later. I was out in the yard, watering the new grass seed, when I saw a beat-up black truck crawling down the road. My heart dropped into my stomach. It pulled up, engine sputtering, and Joey got out. He looked worse than ever, thin, twitchy, like he was held together by anger and nicotine. He didn't cross onto the yard. He stayed on the sidewalk. "Just wanted to see it for myself," he said. "The lawn, the clean porch, the fresh air. Must be nice." I said nothing. He nodded to himself. "You think you won. You really do." I tightened my grip on the hose. He smiled, an ugly, cold smile. "Don't worry. I'm done. The fire's out. But don't forget what smoke smells like. It sticks to your clothes for a long time." Then he left. I stood frozen until the truck disappeared down the hill. It's been almost 6 months. The grass is fully grown now. The tree, though scarred, is recovering. I installed motion-activated cameras on the porch, backyard, and driveway. Every neighbor on the block came together and funded new streetlights for our corner. We built a kind of community out of the chaos. Even Grandma started spending more time at the house, bringing baked goods and watching the news with me on the weekends. She apologized sincerely for not acting sooner. But the best moment came when I walked out one morning and saw something small but symbolic, a family of bluebirds nesting in the tree Joey had tried to kill. New life, right where there was damage. Some nights I still get jumpy when truck drives by, or if a shadow moves the wrong way. Trauma isn't polite, it lingers. But I sleep now, and more importantly, I feel safe. Thank you for watching, and if you want to see more contents like these, please like, subscribe, and tap the notification button to be updated on my latest post.